welcome today. So today we have a special guest named Tobias. He has been a part of Set Free for 18, 19 years now. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you ladies so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So what is Set Free to you?
Set Free to me is actually like a very special place. It's where I found God. I was lost. I was confused. I was on drugs, and Set Free just kind of wrapped its arms around me, and it showed me a lot of love right when I needed it, and they accepted me right where I was at. They understood that, I was a sinner, that I struggled a lot with self-esteem, self-respect, self-love, and they just gave me an ability to bridge the gap between my sin and God, forgiveness, and made it a lot of fun. I mean, honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was rough. It was cool, and it was special. There was a lot of big, strong biker people around, and I was into that when I was younger. I mean, I'm still into it today, but definitely it was a different vibe. They used to have this banner up top and it said "Sinners Welcome" when you walked into church, and it was like, whoa, this is something totally different than I've ever experienced, And the message was clear, and it was really Bible led, and I could feel it. I could feel that there was change that was happening in people's lives here, and that was attractive, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you struggle with drug addiction, you said. We want to ask you, where do you believe that it started from? Do you believe it was like childhood trauma? Was it boredom? Like, what exactly happened to trigger the drug usage, and how old were you when all of these things happened?
I grew up dyslexic, like severely dyslexic, and so I didn't know how to read or write pretty much all through school. And there was just like this separation where I just felt inadequate. And not that my parents were frustrated with it, but I think my dad probably thought I was dumb. And that was a little bit frustrating for him, right? My sister was really good at school, getting good grades, could read, write, and all that stuff, and I just struggled so much with it. They put me in some classes, the kids made fun of me, they teased me, they bullied me, they picked on me, beat me up, and so I just kind of developed this anger inside me, that I was different, that maybe I was dumb. I believed that about myself too, if you're told over and over you're dumb, and then you start telling yourself it, like Chief says all the time, like it's what you become, right? And so I struggled with that, and I think that loneliness in my learning disability really kind of set me in a path to figure out how to get accepted. Right. I just wanted to be accepted, and I wasn't. Sixth grade we moved, and I went to a new junior high school, and I was like, I'm not going to the retarded classes anymore. Right? I'm gonna do it different this time, and I don't care if I can't read or write. No one's gonna know. And I kind of stuck to that all through high school. I ended up dropping out when I was 16 too, and got in a bunch of trouble because I kept getting in fights and stuff like that. Sports kind of kept me in for a minute, but I'd say probably at 8 years old or 7 years old when they diagnosed me with dyslexia, and it was weird, right? I had a teacher come into class, and she was like, "You want to go play games?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to go play some games. Screw this class, And so she took me into a room, and we played some games, and what she was doing was testing my ability to identify words and numbers, and and then she told my parents, like, "Yo, this dude's kind of fucked. He's got a big hill to climb, and we're not sure he's ever going to succeed at it." And so I remember taking that on very heavy. I remember my parents taking that on very heavy, and it just kind of set in motion, me to strive for acceptance in my family, strive for acceptance in my community, at school, And I was a very hyperactive kid too, so I always needed attention, you know, and I was the class clown, right, you know. But yeah, just kind of negative attention or positive attention, just give me attention.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so when did the drug usage or drinking, I'm not sure yet what it was, but when did it start?
I remember at like 10 years old, me and my buddy were walking down this path and we found like a 6-pack of beer. And, you know, and like, I like went to him like, oh man, let's drink it, you know? And he's like, no, we don't want to drink that, you know? And I'm like, come on, man, you know? And he's like, I'm not going to drink it. And I'm like, man, I'm going to drink it, you know? And so, like, I drank a few beers and I remember a little effect. Like, I really remember the effects of alcohol. Like, I couldn't tell you, you know, the first time a lot of stuff happened in my life, but I can tell you the first time I drank because it was something different, right? And I was laughing and joking around, and then I don't know, probably like I waited a while longer, so probably like 13 years old, I went hunting with my cousins out in Michigan, and they offered me a beer. Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. And I drank one, and I was like, give me another one of those, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, whatever, dude, you know, right? So they gave me another one, and I remember too one time, like at my parents' house, getting into their liquor cabinet. They were gone. I was probably like 14 years old, so you know, I was at home alone, maybe like one of my first times, like really where they just took off, and I could watch myself. My sister wasn't there, and I just took every liquor that was in the cabinet, and I just poured it all in one big giant glass.
Oh my God.
And I like drank it, and it tasted so nasty, right? And I'm like, oh, you know, but I found some orange juice in the refrigerator, and I'm like, you know, I didn't even know what a chaser was, but I'm like, you know, all right, cool, and I would like chase it, right? And I remember just falling on the carpet and like rolling around and laughing. I was listening to music, and then all of a sudden I heard the garage door open, and I'm like, oh shit, my parents are here, right? And so I ran upstairs, you know. But real like, I would say like heavy drinking and pot smoking happened when I was like 14 or 15 years old, you know, and that came also like I've always had this entrepreneur spirit, and so you know, like that also came with like selling weed, right? And so yeah, at a young age, like 15 years old, I was selling weed at high school, and I remember like all the seniors always coming up and being like, yo, you got some weed? And I'm like, yeah, I got the best weed. You know? And they're like, all right, cool, man, you know, could we get a little bag? And it was like, I'd run to the bathroom, and the school kind of knew that was going on, and they would come and like try to like search my locker, but I was always like one step ahead of them, like, you know. I remember specifically one time like I had like 2 ounces in my pocket, and the principal called me, and I'm like, oh bro, like I'm so screwed right now. And I was sitting on this big fluffy chair, and I just took my pen that was in my backpack, and I just poked a hole in this big fluffy chair, and I just started digging a hole in there, and I just stuffed it in there, you know? Yeah, and I remember going into the principal's office, and there was a pipe laying underneath the seat. It was like the kid before me had dropped a pipe in there, and I'm like, I'm so screwed, you know what I mean? Like, he ended up catching me, and then later on that day, I had to go back and get that, you know? And so I like went back in to where the lobby was, where the principal's office was, and I like sat back down on that chair, and I was like, give me that back, you know? So
you got balls for that.
Yeah. I experienced that. Like, there was older kids. I always hung out with the older kids, and like it didn't matter like what it was. Like I just wanted to be accepted. And so, where's the bottle of alcohol that I have to drink, or what do I have to do in order to be the toughest guy around, in order to be accepted by my peers? You know, and if you sold drugs, people accepted you. You know, they thought you were cool at that time. You know, and so I took that for a lot of years. You know, like I took it way too long and way too far. You know, but that's kind of where it all started. It just kind of. You know, I had an older dude come up, and he's like, hey man, I got some ounces of weed, like, would you like it, you know? And you can pay me in a week. And it's like, yeah, you know, like, absolutely, I'll pay you tomorrow. Yeah. And he's like, really? Well, yeah, you know, give it to me, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and I got in a lot of trouble with my family. My family's a Christian family, and I didn't really like get accepted there too. And my mom's a Baptist, grew up with a Baptist preacher as a father. Oh, wow. And so there was a lot of abuse in my house. Spare the rod, spoil the child. But she was abused, and I you know, I think that discipline's good, but at the level that we were getting disciplined by both my grandparents and my parents, I just built a resentment, right? And I wanted to rebel, and I did, but in that, there was a separation with my family then too, right? I wasn't accepted home. I got caught smoking pot at church, and then they kicked me out of the youth group, and my mom's like, well, where's he supposed to go? He needs God, and it's like, I just didn't fit into that mold that they had kind of created for our household, and so it was like, where I fit in was on the streets with my friends. So, at 15, I just became a habitual runaway and constantly getting in trouble. I was a felon by 15. I got my first DUI when I was 15 years old. I didn't even have a driver's license yet.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then, I ended up having to go to juvenile hall and a whole lot of scary places, and I ended up getting signed over to the state, and I went to a wilderness program, and I stayed there for 16 months.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that you had a problem, and when did it ever graduate to any other drugs besides alcohol and weed, or was it just those two? Did you ever graduate to anything harder or worse that was harder to stop?
It did. I dabbled in a little bit of stuff, I had my friend one time, he was involved in, his neighbor had, meth or something, and he came over to my house, and I had my own apartment at, 18, 19 years old, selling drugs, and he came over, and he was like, hey, bro, I got this ounce of meth, you know what I mean? He's like, keep it at your house. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'm like, we did, some hot rails or something, and then, he came back, 3 days later, there was just a little bit of meth left, He's like, what happened to the ounce, And I'm like, dude, that shit's dangerous. I'm staying away from it, So, I had friends that were doing heroin. My best friend was doing heroin, and it was pretty scary for me watching them do it, And I remember one day I was like, I had an apartment, and they were using my spare bedroom, and I walked in there, and they were shooting drugs, and I was sad about it, right? And I've always had big emotions, I'm a big dude, but I have big feelings too. And when I have big feelings that are uncomfortable, I want to numb them, right? And so anyways, I just walked in, and I was basically like, what are you guys doing, And they're like, we're shooting heroin. And I'm like, not in my fucking house, you know what I mean, right? And I'm like, what's so fucking cool about heroin? You guys want to do freaking heroin? You think it's so freaking cool? Shoot me up with it, you know? And I passed out, and I kind of stayed away from it for a while, but I was definitely dabbling with drugs. Being a drug dealer, people would trade me for, or it was just weed that I was selling, but people would trade me constantly for other drugs, mushrooms, acid, Molly, and I would experience all of that for a short amount of time. I broke my back in 2007. Riding motorcycles, and I got addicted to pain pills, and this was when it might have been 2006, but anyways, doctors were prescribing large amounts of pills, I basically found out that I could get with my x-rays and MRIs pills, a lot of them, and so I remember I snorted Oxycontin for the first time, just a half pill, and I was like, oh, bro, we are going to make so much money to all my friends. I'm like, this is going to take over the fucking world, And so, we started selling a lot of drugs, and in 2007, I ended up getting raided, and I had a bunch of drugs on me, guns, money, tons of pills from tons of different doctors, and it was a big case, and a bunch of doctors went down for what they prescribed to kids, and I ended up going to prison.
Wow.
And
how old were you when that happened?
24, 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that your first rock bottom?
Was it my first rock bottom? No, I really wasn't done yet, you know. I got out and you know, just started off where I left off, and I think I was in a sober living, and I met somebody, and you know, they were into pills too, and then in that I came to Set Free, and because I was running from parole, and yeah, I met this soldier that rode for Set Free, and he had a rehab up in the mountains, and it was just like his name was Jack Green. He was a great man, right? You know, and he never solved his problem to addiction, and that's okay, right? But in that, you know, like he brought me down to church, Set Free.
Wow.
And Chief met me, and he was like, "Bro, you're just gonna stay here,"
Yeah.
you know. And I did treatment in Chief's house, and.
Do you feel like you were done at that point yet? Do you feel like you were like, I'm done doing drugs, I need help? Like, did you ever get to that desperation point?
Yeah, I stayed sober for 6 months.
Okay.
And my life got better, and we ran a little skate ministry for kids, and that was super motivational. And like Chief would just like wake up in the morning and he'd eat his oatmeal, and you know, and he'd have a bunch of people around the table, and he'd be like, "We're gonna read the Bible," and just like we do Bible study, you know, we would do Bible study, and we would learn about people in the Bible and stories about the Bible, and he made it cool.
Yeah.
And he made it fun, and you know, you could really feel God's love through him, which is why it's like so important to have like leaders, mentors, pastors, right?
Yes.
You know, and in that, yeah, I felt something different. He kept promoting it in my life, and he kept giving me responsibilities at the church, small ones, like you're gonna sing in the church choir, you know,
Yeah.
and like. I'm like, all right, cool, you know, and they made that fun too. It was like karaoke, like it was like, you know, different like regular songs that like we, you know, like we hear on the radio every day. He's like, sing these and just change these words, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool, you know.
We still do that.
Yeah, we'd add a little Jesus in there, dude, and like it made it really fun, you know. And then, you know, he knew that I liked to skateboard, and he's like, the skate ministry, you know, like. You know, and we went around the local skate parks here in Anaheim, and like we were just like, yo, free hot dogs and soda, you know, like come to our you know, skate event, you know, and we're gonna give away free skateboards. We got the smoke shops in the, or no, the skate shops in the area to donate boards and stickers and T-shirts and stuff like that. And we gave them away, you know, for people that would win different contests that we'd set up, and then we had to do like a little testimony. And I remember, like, you know, like that was like what do I say?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like, but it changed me.
Yeah.
You know, and my dad ended up having a brain aneurysm after 6 months of sobriety, and once again, those uncomfortable feelings and emotions came about, right?
Fear.
And I ran from them, and I ran straight to drugs, so I didn't have to feel them. And again, boom, I got arrested, and I went to prison. And I probably went 2 more times after that, right? And I really found my rock bottom when I went to my sister's house. So I got out on parole, and my parole officer basically allowed me to go and see my sister. And I hadn't had a Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday, New Year's, or anything out in probably 5 years. Like I would do like 2 months out, parole would violate me, boom, I'd go back to prison, you know. And so like I remember getting this overwhelming anxiety, like, oh, I'm going to see my family and I'm going to celebrate with my family. And my niece was born while I was in prison, and she was probably 3 or something then. And I love this little baby girl, but I didn't know her, you know. And so anyway, she changed my heart. Like she really broke me down. You know, like I tried for 7 days just to get her to hug me and love me, and you know, I was big, and I was tattooed, and I had this hardened heart. I hadn't cried in 5 years. I was just like numb to the world, and I had PTSD, and just like I wasn't safe to her, and she could sense that, right? So I don't know. Eventually, that wall broke down, and when it did, like I got the chance to put her to bed. And I just remember like this experience that I had, and she asked me to pray.
Aww.
And when I laid her down to bed, and like it was like, you know, like I'm gonna pray to this God that, you know, like I don't really know or understand, you know, because I lost what Set Free had given me, and just kind of allowed the world to grab a hold of me again, you know, and she opened that door up again, you know, and so I prayed, and then I was walking out the room, and you know, she's like sitting up, and she's like, "Aren't you gonna sing?"
Aww.
And I'm like, you know, like, what song? You know, she's like, you know, she had like this Christian song she wanted me to sing, "Angels Watching Over Me," and I'm like, dude, I don't know that song. And she's like, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star."
Aww.
And so yeah, halfway through that song, my heart just broke, right? You know, and like I saw the person that God always wanted me to be. I saw the you know, the sensitive, caring, loving person that God had put me on this planet to be, right? And so 11 days later on her birthday, I got sober. And I stayed sober for 7 years, and I worked a good program at Alcoholics Anonymous. But I kind of refused to believe in God. Like, I was just like, nah, like, I'm going to choose the ocean as my higher power, you know, like, I'm just going to, like, you know, do this thing, and like, and that's cool. And Alcoholics Anonymous, like, they say, hey, you know, find a power of your own understanding, and like, just believe in that, and believe that it gives you strength, you know, to overcome your addiction. And so that's just kind of how I rolled, right, you know, and then in that, like, it started developing more and more and more, and I started sponsoring guys, and then, like, you know, like, God was just working on me slowly, you know. And in that time, like, Chief always sent me messages, caring, short, right? You know how Chief works.
Yeah,
just like,
miss
yo,
you.
like,
Emoji.
miss you,
Love you.
right? You know, come see me. And one of those days when I was sober, I was like, bro, I'd love to come see you, you know. And he's like, please do.
Yeah.
And so I came to his house, and he had some group there that he was doing, and he had me speak.
Yeah.
And I was able to share my story, you know, he was like, bro, he's like, you know, you need to come more.
Yeah.
And I lived in San Diego at the time, and so it was a really far drive, you know, and I'd ride my motorcycle down, but I pretty much didn't come back for years, you know, and then I relapsed, right, again. Me and my ex-wife, we didn't really, like, get along that well, and she wasn't sober, and so I thought by me not being sober, I could fix that problem.
Yeah.
And I forgot I was alcoholic, and so you know, we started drinking, and that relationship did not work. It got worse because of that, right? And then, you know, I built a big business, and I had a lot of success, and I forgot about God, and I was partying all the time, and as long as I stayed away from heroin and meth, I was good. As long as I stayed away from pills, you know. And so I had this rule, like, I won't even take an Advil, right? Because of my pill addiction, I was just like, you know, that's what I need to stay away from. And probably about 2 years ago, someone offered me, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, someone offered me a bump of cocaine when I was out partying at the bars, and and then cocaine just took me over. I'm like a true dope fiend, you know. And so it's not like one time for me, you know. It's like I'm like, okay, cool, you know, like, now let's get a bag. And then, like, when that bag runs out, I'm like 3-4 days, and I'm like, I gotta stop doing this cocaine. It's horrible for me, you know, right? Like, straight up. And then the next weekend, it's like, oh, well, I mean, we're at the bars, dude. Let me just get one bag. And it's like 3-4 days, and I'm like, oh. And so I pretty much hated myself. I hated the fact that I had no control when it came to cocaine, and like also, like, if I ran out at 2 or 3 in the morning, I hit everyone up in town. Like, just like, I mean, like, anyone and everyone, like, yo, bro, and they're like, hey, man, you were calling me at like 3 in the morning last night, like, you all right, dude? Like,
oh, good.
Like, oh, bro, like, that's just who I am. I'm this absolute dope fiend, you know. And and I always wanted to be like this motivational guy and encourage people and help people out, and like, here the example that I was carrying just was like not solid, and it wasn't good. And you know, in that, like, I really just started hating the person that I was, and I found in my life that when I run from God or I hide from God or he never lets me go and he wants me back.
Yeah.
Right? He wants to, for me to experience his love, and he's going to come and humble me and just, sweep the rug out from under me. And that's what he did. He basically took everything that I had built and all of my money at the same time. And in that, I had a lot of fears. I was facing 8 years in prison. I was facing a bunch of felonies, and I am a felon multiple times over. And I fought that. And in that, I had this pivotal point where I was like, okay, bro, we're either just going to continue to do cocaine and just go all the way down with it, boom, through court, all of it. I'm just going to be getting high and fucking up my life.
Yeah.
Or right now I'm going to change. And I have really good friends in Alcoholics Anonymous. My closest friends are amazing people. I've known them for 25, 35 years of my life, right? And anyways, one of those brilliant men, we used to party when we were younger, and now they're sober, right? And he just hit me with yo, Tobias, I went to this event out at the desert, and everyone was talking about you. They're like, to him, they're like, yo, where's the big guy? Where's the big dog, dude? Where's he at? He's like, oh, he's doing okay, you know what I mean? And they're like, man, we miss that guy, dude, whatever. And so he told me that, and it was like, oh, cool. He's like, man, you were really an example in Alcoholics Anonymous. You really helped a lot of people, and you can be that person again. You could get sober whenever you want.
Yeah.
And it was like an epiphany. They call it a spiritual awakening. Something just all of a sudden turned on. And it's like, wait, I can be sober whenever I want?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit, maybe I can. And so I made the decision just to walk into one Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, And through that, Chief still hit me, and I was like, I want to come to Set Free, right? And I came that first week to Set Free, and I probably had I don't know, maybe 2 weeks sober or something. And, Chief was super happy to see me, right? And, I really look at him as a mentor. I look at him as just this overwhelmingly loving man that accepts me where I'm at, and I had really good experiences with him. I was like his little buddy, and he asked me to speak that day. I'm sitting in church, dude, and it's like, oh man, I start sweating, you know what I mean? This is what I'm going through, right? You know what I mean? And God had me come here, and my walk with God this time has been truly incredible. So I think that this time it's so much different than before.
Then that's the Jesus, right? That's the difference?
Yes. So, I go to probably 5, 6 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I have a sponsor. I work steps, right? And it's very important that I do that. I need to solve the problem for my alcoholism, right? And that is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. At the same time, those 12 steps are put and designed for us to find a higher power of our own understanding, which I choose to call Jesus Christ God today, right? But this place gives me that understanding. It gives me that knowledge. It gives me that ability to grow, learn, and change with God in the center, right? And so I really didn't understand it until I came back, and I started getting hungry, right? And Chief kept asking me to speak, right? And then it's like, I would get nervous sitting in the back of the church, right? And I brought my nieces here, and they're standing, they love God, and they're standing up praising. I'm sitting down, sweating, when's he gonna call on me, or what am I gonna say? Right, straight up, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge, but I love being motivational. So it's all right, and in that, I'm dude, I better get some knowledge, and so I just started seeking more of the community, the leadership. I want to be a good follower, right?
Yeah.
And I want those leaders to teach me, because I don't know everything. I actually know very little, right? And this place does a really good job of meeting you right where you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, they feed you exactly what you need, right?
Yes.
Chief says, hey, we bring the cookie jar down so that the kids can reach it, right?
Yes.
And I'm an absolute kid. I'm a baby here, right?
Yeah.
And I need to be fed, right? And Set Free does an amazing job of feeding young Christians exactly what they need and showing God's love, right?
Yes.
And then teaching us what we need to do ourselves in action in order to get more love, in order to receive more of Jesus's promises to us. And in that, I just got super hungry. I was just I was here one day at church, and there was a healer that was talking, and I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit come over me, and it changed my life dramatically. It was like, is this real?
Yeah.
And I called everyone I knew that loved God, like not just in this community. I just called like every pastor that I knew. Like I play volleyball with some guys, and they're Christians, and I'm just like, yo, bro.
Is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I want to know, like, bro, is this like some witchcraft or something? Like, what's going on?
That's how I am.
Like just straight up, right? Like this can't be real, right? But I cried the whole way home.
Yeah.
Like I felt the presence of God. I really did.
I remember that.
Yeah, and any time that I talk about it, right, I get emotional. I start feeling it again, and I was like, I don't want to lose this. I want more of this, right? How do I get more of it? And I got some clear, concise direction on how to do that, right? Go to church more, read your Bible more, right? Get into your Word, and all that shit was scary.
Yeah.
I'm not a good reader still today. I do have a business degree, and I did well in school, but they had a lot of programs designed to help me with my disability, and I can read all right, but like seeing this big ass book and then these crazy words in it, dude, I'm just like, I'm never gonna understand this, or comprehend it, right, and I just take it piecemeal. I take it a little bit at a time,
Yes.
I try not to overwhelm myself with it, but I do take it serious. It's part of my routine today, and I started just hitting my knees, like not just like praying, but I started like kneeling at my bed, right, and taking time out to get a conversation with God, right? Jesus died for us. It's the least I can do, right? And so in that, I started feeling the presence of God, overwhelming presence of God, right? And it started being emotional for me, right? It started working in my life on a day-to-day basis, and the blessings started coming, right? I had to go to jail, and when I went to jail, it was just for a short time too. I beat the 8 years. I got 60 days.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah. It was like a straight blessing. I started doing the right thing. Shit started happening, right? And then, I was like, all right, like this really does work. And what's the next step to continue that, And I got out and I had nothing. I had $400 in my bank account. I had lost my freaking home with the ocean view. I had lost everything. And I moved into my parents' house for 2 weeks. And I'm like, bro, what am I doing? I built my office in their house, and I just got to work. And then all of it came very, very fast. I started getting success in work really, really fast, and like, and in that, right, it was like, I want to do good things with my money, and I want to tithe at church, right, and I want to give God back what He's given me, and He's been convicting me daily on working on my character defects, right, and so in that, like, I built a really solid routine with God, putting Him first, right, in everything that I do. And when the devil comes in and feeds me thoughts that are lies, I literally feed myself truth, right? And I get into the Word and I start hearing those truths, right? And my head starts repeating them, right? And I'm not responsible for my thoughts, right? My head's crazy. It really is. But I am responsible for my actions. And so in that, I started liking the person that I am. I started loving the person that I am. I started seeing, what I could be in this community for other people, right? Not for myself, right? And then I decided to get baptized. God, just one day, I seen somebody get baptized here. And I was like, dude, I wanted to strip off my clothes right there. Real! And I was just like, dude, I need to get in that bucket right now, Like, just wait till, it's not your day or your time, right? And in that, I just, I reached out to somebody that I care about, and I was just like, have you ever been baptized? And they were like, when I was a baby, but no, not recently, and God just put it on my heart that I want to get baptized. Like, I want to wash away the old, and I was baptized at Set Free 10 years ago, but this walk is totally different.
Absolutely.
And I'm not doing it for anyone else, I'm doing it for myself, right? And my sobriety is so the forefront of my life, and God is such an important part of that, the key point, right? That I was like, yo, like this walk is different. I want to express it to the world and to myself and to my Father.
Yes.
That, hey, you want to know what? Like, I'm free of the old, right? And what I want today is different, right? I want to serve you in everything that I do. And dude, the blessings are miraculous, right? I don't have perfect days ever.
Yeah.
I'll be real. Like, I'm not walking on pink clouds ever,
Yeah.
right? Life is life. And this shit is tough, but I have a solution to it,
Yeah.
right? I have my own solution to clean up my wreckage when it comes to the shit that I do that is dishonest or inconsiderate of others, right? You know, and Alcoholics Anonymous gives me those tools, right?
Yeah.
But I have a cure for the feelings of inadequacy,
Yes.
the insecurities, the pain, suffering, regret, shame, and guilt, right? God forgives me. He knows everything I'm going to do, and He knows everything that I did. And He says, bro, you're good.
Yeah.
With me, all I see is Jesus. That's enough for me today. I don't need to know more. I live in faith with the rest, right? I know that He's working on me constantly to be that better man. And on a day-to-day basis, I feel like a better man,
That's awesome.
right? You know, and because of that, like, you know, I try to share that with the community. I try to speak about my experience. I try to encourage people today, like, hey, this shit did not, like, just all of a sudden, like, come. It takes work.
Yeah.
You got to put in work to get the blessings, and you got to put in work to feel loved. You got to get into action instantly and set free. Has something going on every single night,
Sure does.
right? You know?
It does.
And even though it's like maybe not the closest church, not by any means, it is the only church for me. Set Free is the only community that I want to be a part of. I see God working in this community. I see our community growing in strength, in belief, you know, in wisdom when it comes to God's love, His word, and all of that. And I love being a part of that.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like this is my community.
Yes.
You know, and Chief is my pastor.
Yes.
He's my leader. I want to follow him. Pastor Anthony is my pastor. He is someone that I want to follow, and he gives me clear direction. I'll ask him anything, dude. If I'm having a bad day, you know, I'll ask Chief too. Yo, bro, like, where do I go with this? Yo, I need prayer. Where do I start with this? You know what I mean? Like, my head's wild and crazy, or I don't really know what to start reading, you know, and like, where's a good place? And Sandra too.
Yeah.
She gives me great direction, like, just like, you know, and a lot of encouragement and love,
Yeah.
right? You know, and
Yes.
I feel like this place is very special to me, and I'm very special to it. And that's a good feeling, you know? It's like I'm not just like in this community, I'm a part of this community.
Yes.
And this community is really good about surrounding one another, checking in with one another, making sure that, you know, this community's tight. And when someone's falling off, we don't judge them.
No.
We wrap our hands around them and we bring them back in the herd. you know?
100%. Yes.
And that's what I want to be a part of, you know? I mean, even Sunday tonight was like, yo, this is your brother right here, Tobias. You're his new mentor. You know what I mean?
You're like, all right. Yes.
All right, bro, you know, I'll give it my best shot, you know what I mean?
So if anybody that's still struggling on being free, sober versus free, right? Like any last words on any advice for somebody still struggling
With addiction.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I think the most important thing is to admit to yourself that you need help, right? And then reach out to the local community of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're a man, go to men's meetings.
Yes.
If you're a woman, go to women's meetings. Raise your hand. State where you're at and that you need help. And that community will wrap their arms around you.
Yes.
And then find a local church that you can start to get to know. Come to Set Free.
Yeah,
If you got a Set Free in your area, if you live far away, I live far away. I don't care. I come 3-4 times a week to this community, right? But It doesn't have to be, right? Go to a place that you can absolutely start hearing and understanding what God did for you, what Jesus did as a sacrifice for your life, and start living in faith, right? That's what I've found to be my success today. I do both. I don't forget about one. I allow the Men in Alcoholics Anonymous to teach me about my addiction and the solutions to my problem, which is a physical allergy and a mental obsession, right? And then I come to Set Free to get my God, right? To continue to grow in spirituality, continue to get to know the Lord more, right? And in that, you won't fail, right?
That's right.
It takes work. Like, put in the work, right? You have to stay dedicated to it. I don't ever miss meetings. I don't feel like coming to church sometimes.
Right.
I don't feel like going to meetings sometimes. I've trained my feet to walk there, and so I go. Dude, feelings aren't fact. That's the bottom line, right? You know? And so the truth is if I only went to meetings when I felt like going to meetings, I'd never fucking go.
Yeah.
And if I only went to church when I felt like going to church, I rarely fucking go, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is every time that I show up at an Alcoholics Anonymous, I get fed what I need to in order to handle the next day. When I come to church, I get the same thing.
Yes.
I came here stressed out about all kinds of shit going on in work, in my life right now, and it's like, boom, I sat down, I got loved by the community. Yo, big dog, what's up? How are you? You know what I mean? Good to see you, right? And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
right? And then I get fed.
Yeah.
I get fed the Word of God, right? And in that feeding, I eat it up.
Yeah.
And it encourages me then to continue. Like, all right, cool. I need this so much,
Yeah.
right? So I would encourage anyone struggling and suffering to get to work immediately.
Yes.
To get your ass up, admit that you have a problem, and take direction from someone who knows how to live right. And then get in your words so that you get direct direction from God on how to heal your heart.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it sounds like you're set free, not just sober.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are a very pivotal person in this community, and your fire brings other people fire. So you're an inspiration to all of us. We want to thank you.
Right
Thank
on.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you, ladies,
Thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate you guys.
Remember, guys, we have something going on every night of the week at Set Free at 7 p.m. We have church on Sundays at 10. Please show up. If not, watch online. Please like, subscribe, share if you like what we're doing. We really appreciate the support.
And we also want to shout out to Zoe. We love you, Zoe.
Let's go, big dog.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Love
thank
you
you.
guys.
ain't stunned, I'm restored. I'm just walking with the Lord. And my joy look like a boast. It's your grace how I'm in